Thank you so much for staying on JoyNews. This is News Desk. I'm Bernice Abubeidulansa. Coming up, 15 people lose their lives while attempting to flee in Nkwanta's chieftaincy dispute. Also, the political season is fast approaching. What's the right time to choose a running mate? We'll speak to a political scientist. We've also got an analysis on what the finance minister's absence in Parliament for the 2024 budget debate could mean for its acceptance by the House. And we've also got some business news updates in this package for you. Kindly stay with us. We are coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle here in Accra, Ghana, live on DSTV and GoTV, and around the world via myjoyonline.com. We start off on a rather disturbing note as 15 people have lost their lives while attempting to flee the chieftaincy dispute in Nkwanta. They were aboard a minibus headed to Ho when an accident occurred. Their minibus collided with a heavy-duty truck. Let's get an update on this from Adom News' Obrimpong Owusu. Hello, Obrimpong. Rather sad news we're hearing about some people who've lost their lives in an attempt to flee a conflict. Tell us more about how this happened.
Well, really, there was an accident that happened or occurred at home in the Volta region, and what we're getting indicated some of the residents of Nkwanta out here were in the bus in the terms of living out of the area when the conflict started. But contact we have been able to reach orders to see or to find out whether indeed these publications or story that was reported coming out was indeed true. We've been able to establish contact, but to me, where we've been able to arrive was that the boat was not really traveling from Nkwanta, but rather about to say somewhere in the ocean.
I'm sorry, Obrimpong, I'm struggling to hear you. Can you speak up a bit? Did you say that your findings are that this may not be linked to the chieftaincy dispute?
Yes, indeed. This exactly so. I'm saying that it's not linked to the chieftaincy dispute yet. Because our check from the various sources that we thought we could establish contact shows that those, although there was an accident and there was reports that, but there wasn't a contact that was established to say that those accidents that occur or that the accident occurred, people were fleeing out of Nkwanta as a result of conflicts they were involved. So we've been able to raise some of the security officers that we were working with. They said no, they never had any information as of yesterday till this morning.
So do we know where the people were moving from? We know the accident occurred in Ho, but where was the vehicle coming from?
So our findings, it shows that the bus was traveling from Volta somewhere they catch the Akwe. So that is what we got to know about our finding, that the bus was traveling from the Akwe somewhere to the Volta region.
Okay, so they are not coming from Nkwanta?
Not exactly.
All right, so the latest is that the news going round that these people who were involved in that accident who were coming from Nkwanta has not yet been established or confirmed by any of the security forces, and your investigation is pointing to something else.
Yes, what I'm saying is that because we've also been trying to get to know where those people were traveling from, if they were from within Nkwanta South or any of the communities here.
All right,
so what we've been able to establish is that the people were not actually traveling from here. But we could see that maybe those that were involved in the bus, maybe they must have joined the bus somewhere. Maybe they were coming from somewhere. They must have joined the bus.
Right. All right. So once we don't have, once we don't have concrete information, we can leave it at that and not veer off into speculations. But What do we know about what led to the accident? 15 lives have been lost at the moment. How exactly did the accident occur?
Actually, it happened in a new regime, which is the Volta regime, and it's 40 regime. What happened that the bus was traveling from Abuja to Hu, and when I think in attempt of it fell in or stopped so I've not been there myself, so I can't talk much about the accident there.
Right.
That is what I've been able to establish.
Thank you for joining me, Obrimpong. Obrimpong is with our sister station, Adum FM. We'll try and iron out the grey parts of this particular story and subsequently give you the full details as they are factually. Meanwhile, the National Peace Council is asking the IGP and security agencies to strengthen investigations underway with the required resources to assure affected families and the Ghanaian public of speedy justice. Chairman Reverend Dr. Ernest Edudjemfi spoke earlier on the AM show.
I think the issue of proliferation of small arms is a very serious issue in our country. If you look at the number of arms that are in homes and in the hands of the youth, it is a very worrying situation. And that is what is spilling up into all of these things. And some of our research in the north, in the past, most young people would want to get a bicycle or motorbike, and they think that he's come to a certain level of status. Now it's not motorbikes, it's guns. So everybody is trying to buy a gun. And that is a very worrying situation for our country, with so many young people holding guns across the country. That leads to these things. So with the least provocation, somebody picks up arms and starts shooting. So we have to do collectively everything we can to stop these things and bring them to some level of control as much as we can. And I think that everybody is needed as far as this whole project is concerned. Guns, there's a need to find some regulation. Are these guns registered? Where are they coming from? Who is selling them? And why is it so easy for people to lay hands on these things? These are issues that I believe the police must come in to help us. Maybe the immigration services may have to also up their game in terms of border controls and how they search through these things, because there are too many of them coming in.
Away from security issues, Speaker of Parliament Alban Bagbin on Wednesday deferred the second day of the 2024 budget debate until the Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta or his deputies appeared before the House. The Speaker's decision followed an argument by former Minority Leader Haruna Idrisu that the debate must not proceed because the Minister was absent. There was a counter-appeal from the Minority Leader, Dr. Ato Forsen, for the debate to proceed.
Proceed to the budget debate now. We'll start with statements until we see evidence from the political leadership of the ministry present in the House. Then we can go to the budget debate. So let's handle statements now. We need them to be available to note the submissions of members, take them serious, and make sure that they are factored into the management of our economy, particularly the implementation of the 2024 budget. So please, since we have some two statements available, we could take that now. We have the whole day to handle the budget. We will still, if we get time, also take questions. So, Honorable Daphne, don't lose hope. You may be here today asking your questions.
That was the Speaker's decision after he heard the argument of the former Minority Leader and the Minority Leader. Let's now get on to Zoom and speak to Dr. Rashid Rahman of the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs. Thank you so much for your time, Doc. I mean, what do you make of this? Do we really need the finance minister to be there? He's done his work. He's presented the budget statement to the House. Now, the House has the responsibility to debate and approve or otherwise the financial statement. Does he need to be there, or do his deputies need to be there at all?
In normal times, perhaps absence of the minister might not be a big issue, but we are in abnormal times. Our country is currently going through very serious challenges. And I would have thought that, this is a budget that is supposed to give, most of us and our compatriots some relief. And if there is any period during which the Minister of Finance and his deputies have to be in Parliament, this is that period. It's very difficult to understand. I don't know what kind of difficult circumstances are taking the minister away. But I would have thought that, whatever it is, perhaps maybe some scheduling would have to be done in such a way that, the minister is in the House, because there is some comparison that has been made with, for instance, many years ago when Honorable Bawuridu was Minister for Finance. During this period of debate on the budget, he would sit in the House and take notes and respond appropriately. So I think that's the context. And beyond that, I think yesterday we saw in the House, how the House was virtually empty. During a period like this, it beats my imagination.
Right, Doc. Just not to cut you short, but just by way of information, we are told that the finance minister is out of the country. We know where we are with trying to get the second tranche of our IMF support. And so he is in negotiations outside the country. That's equally important, citing what you just spoke about, the current state of our economy and the need for all these interventions. Also, much later, though, we were told that the numbers picked up. I agree that the numbers initially were quite terrible to report on. So the question here is, this is more of a moral argument, isn't it? Because the minister didn't necessarily breach any standing orders of the House.
No. Really, the minister didn't breach any standing orders. I think it's more of looking at our context and looking at what we are dealing with as a country. And so, yes, I think that is where the argument is. And these budget discussions, the timing of the presentation of the budget and all the discussions that follow are things that were programmed, ahead of time. And I believe that the minister and his team were part of, selecting this period. So whatever it is, I think, like you said, it's not a legal argument. I think it's more of not even moral, but an argument that is tied to the kind of extenuating circumstances that our country is dealing with at the moment, which requires that we get all the answers, Parliament gets all the answers, all the clarifications, and so on. And I think it's the minister and his team that can provide these answers. Right.
Much later, though, we know that the debate resumed. The day before, one of his deputies was in the House, and so this is much ado about nothing. The argument is the minister has done his job. You have to do your job of scrutinizing the document and approving it or not.
Well, yes, not necessarily much to do about nothing, because the budget is a very important, if not the most important policy document of the government and the most important policy of every country. And I believe that, in dealing with the budget as well as other documents before the House, the availability of information, the transparency of information are all critical. And members of Parliament ask questions, and those questions need to be answered. And I believe that that's where the presence and the availability of the minister and his team would have made a big difference. So that we don't get into the realm of speculation. We don't get into the realm of people interpreting and giving meaning to things really that are not, you know, sometimes we can overblow things in our country. I mean, somebody could take an issue that is really not relevant, and because all the answers have not been provided, then, you know, the debate begins to take a different turn. So that is why, you know, it's important not only for the minister. I think whilst we are questioning the absence of the minister, most importantly for me, what is more important is the seriousness of the members themselves to show up on time. I mean, and not, you know, to get a situation where, like you were saying, the numbers picked up. No, I mean, the numbers have to be present at 10 o'clock in the morning when this process is beginning.
Right. And on the issue of absenteeism, I mean, you have been speaking over the years about this. Organizations like Odikru have come up with reports talking about absenteeism in Parliament, and it still seems to be a problem. We're going into an election year. We're likely going to see the House getting, you know, very fewer numbers represented, because people will now begin to focus on either getting re-elected or helping their party win the general elections and all that. What's your do you harbor any fears about what Parliament is going to look like in the coming days?
The issue of absenteeism, I think Parliament has lost it because I have said over and over, we have taken an approach which over the years, I mean, not only, I think beginning from about the 5th Parliament up to this time, speaker after speaker, and then eventually we saw in the 8th Parliament, I mean this Parliament, when a number of MPs were sent to the Privileges Committee and so on, for breaching that provision of their standing orders. But I mean, when we sum it up all, it looks like the approach in dealing with this legally has failed. And I have said that maybe we might need to rethink this and perhaps take the approach that some countries, a realistic approach, some countries have taken in the Scandinavia and other places where, you know, they hit you where it bites most. That is, you know, you are absent, you lose some of your financial entitlements. That is, if you are absent without having gone through the right processes that that Parliament has laid down. Because, you know, I would just, not imagine a situation where in this Parliament or in any future Parliament, where members can come together and say we are expelling our own. So really, this issue has to be looked at very, very carefully. I know when some of us say this, because I remember this matter of financial kind of sanctions and so on. Some members disagree with that, and I have had instances when I've gotten into discussions with members of Parliament for saying something like this. But you need to show up and do your job. And if you don't, I think we need to find a way to make sure that some sanctions are meted out. Otherwise, this is going to only get serious. Particularly, like you rightly said, with elections coming. Until Parliament is dissolved, members of Parliament have to show up and do their job, because they are taking salary for all this time until they are no longer members of Parliament.
Doc, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing your thoughts. Dr. Rashid Draman is with the African Center for Parliamentary Affairs, and we've been talking about the absence of the Finance Minister and his deputies in Parliament, which led to the Speaker deferring the second day of the debate until we had a deputy representing, and later the debate was resumed. But still in Parliament, the Speaker again has summoned the Ministers for National Security and Interior to appear before the Defense and Interior Committee of Parliament today. He wants them to brief the committee on actions being taken by government to forestall a clash between the Mo and Wangara ethnic groups in the Kintampo North municipality.
Minister for National Security, the Minister for the Interior as the first authorities to come to this house to brief the Committee on Defense and Interior. This is an urgent matter that should be handled with dispatch. I think tomorrow should be okay for the two ministers and their commanders to appear before the committee early tomorrow morning by 9 a.m. to brief the committee. It's an urgent matter. The National Security Council, through their regional office, should immediately intervene because the chieftaincy institution is one of the cornerstones of the peace and security of our country. And we hold that institution dearly. And we should do everything to prevent that institution from falling into disarray. But this, I think, is a simple matter. The president of the Wangara community is the president of the Wangara community in Ghana. That is what the statement says. Not just in the Kintampo traditional area, in Ghana. And so they have a festival, which is an annual festival they celebrate, called Kulubi Festival, within the period. The paramount chief of Mo, and we know how key the Mo tribe is in Ghana, even though a lot of them are rather in Côte d'Ivoire. It's a very important tribe. The paramount chief of the Mo and the president of the Mo Traditional Council is deciding to perform some rituals. That one is not an annual festival because that festival is the Benkadi Kurubi Festival. And there's a period for celebration, but it is just to perform some rituals. It's a belief that if that is done, some spirits could intervene to try to prevent accidents and other criminal activities within the area. So they don't have the same, to me, import.
This is your election headquarters, and as you may be aware, we are fast approaching 2024, and the season is heating up. But what's the right time to choose a running mate? A year or some months to an election? This question has become paramount because former President John Dramani Mahama says the NDC will choose its running mate for the next election in 2024. This is in response to calls from some traditional authorities in the Esunafon South area for him to consider their MP, Eric Opoku, for the position. Already, the Queen Mother of the Bono Traditional Council made similar calls for a Bono native to be chosen for that role. Well, Mr. Mahamad, one of his public engagements in the Ahafo region, said the party is looking forward to taking that decision next year.
Senya amamresi da hono yamanyo kono so ekwan eda ho a yede yi ye nipa a gina bebi a yede nipa no beto presidential candidate and national executive and council of elders ye na ene yede yetibom na ye yi nipa ye friend running mate na sa dwumedie no enye afi ne be no afi eba ena yebe yi sa nipa no enti emre no duru ho a mo dem nko so mbom pae na Moko Bompaye. Nese Yabi Nesi Hene. Enti Yabashania Yambaye, Madam Wase.
Well, basically saying that the party has a time when it makes these decisions, and once that decision is made, the person will be outdoored. He ended by asking that, you know, they should look up to God and see what God will do, or see what the Lord will do. We've been joined by political scientist Dr. Asa Santiv for more on this. Good morning for your time once again, Doc. The lobbying has started, even on the other side of the New Patriotic Party. When you get onto social media, people who love the party, who support the party, have begun putting up pictures, one or two here, throwing their support behind certain personalities. We've got just about a year to the December 7 elections in 2024. Would you say that it is the right time to let the people know who the running mates of these flag bearers are? Is it even relevant at all?
Hello.
Hi, Doc.
Yeah, Bennett.
Right. Did you hear my question, please?
No.
No, I was asking, I was just basically talking about the fact that the lobbying has started, even on social media. We see people putting up photos of certain personalities, especially in the NPP. You know, they believe that they would be a good option for running mates for the party. But I'm asking, we've just got barely a year, just about a year to the December 7 elections in 2024. Would you say it is even relevant to start having that conversation now?
It is relevant because you want to see the whole team put together and champion the cause of campaign to win the election. So people are interested so that they know what is it that is in store for them.
Right. Doc, previously people had actually suggested that we know running mates before we even select who a flag bearer should be, because they believe that it is so critical and important that if we know who you are pairing with, it may or may not influence whether people will choose you or not. But once they choose you and then you make a decision, well, they can't have much a say about that. There are others who've actually gone beyond the running mate to suggest that we actually should know who your key ministers will be before a major election, because all those influence our outlook on what your agenda and vision is and whether you'll be able to execute it as you say.
I think all these questions are legitimate, but if you ask me, from my point of view, some of them are unnecessary. That you want to know who the ministers will be, you want to know the running mate before even the flag bearer is elected. These are unnecessary. They are just overstretching matters. But it's important to state here and now that, yes, the running mate factor is critical for a number of reasons. That you want to know who will pair with the president if that individual wins the election to become the president. You want to know. How popular is he? How competent is he? Does he have what it takes to rub shoulders with anybody who emerged victorious as also running mate from other political parties? And above all, you want somebody who could step into the shoes of the president in case we don't have the president anymore.
Right.
So these are some of the considerations. And once you are talking about the vice president, you are talking about the second highest office on the land. And so obviously, people will begin to just look for positions and all that. It's normal. But these things are selected based on a certain tactical consideration. You don't want to go and pick the candidate from a place that your party is not popular. You are just wasting your time. You are not going to achieve anything. So you always play around your strongholds and swing areas to make impressions. Even though we have not seen any scientific study on what votes do running mates bring to the table, but we are also aware that it's a very important factor in deciding who people vote for during elections. So
right.
This discussion is critical at this time.
So there are some who say in making a defense for Vice President Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, when anyone raises the argument about his involvement in this government and how this government has not lived up to expectation and that it may affect him, well, they say he's not the captain of the ship. They say that he doesn't have the ultimate responsibility. Does that not then suggest that, I mean, it may not necessarily be that these running mates are very influential, apart from the fact that when the president is not available, or if something happens, unfortunately, like it happened with former President Mills, the person will have to be the president. Do we see vice presidents being given enough opportunity to make decisions within the government structure? There are some who've even suggested that this vice president has been sidelined by his own government.
I have no knowledge as to whether he's being sidelined or not, because I'm not part of their party and I don't know what goes on. But what I know is that before Aka's incident with Rawlings, the vice president position was very powerful. He had a lot of functions until that differences came, and then they amended and reduced the vice president position considerably. From that time onwards, the vice president position has been reduced. If you look at vice president position all over the world, the vice president takes instructions from the president. But with the reduction of the vice president position, his powers have come down so drastically. But there is nothing wrong with the president saying that I'm going to give you a lot of work to do so as to tap what is under your sleeves and make my government better. That is what we saw under Ecuador, who gave all information about the vice president, about his competence and the rest of them. So one would have thought that given all that he has said about him and all that, we are going to see much in terms of what economic improvement and all that. The story of the economy today is too open for all of us to see, so I don't want to belabor the point. So those who are arguing that we don't even need that, he can be his own man and the rest of them, they are legitimate questions. But we need a vice president. We need, in other words, we need a running mate who, when his party wins the election, will become the vice president. And we can tax that person to do a lot of work. This vice president that we have, in spite of all the noise he made about the economy and all that, and given the fact that we are where we are in terms of our economic, forward march, then there are more questions for him to answer on the day of war campaign and the rest of them. But that is not to suggest that we don't need a vice president. We need a vice president for very good reasons, which I have already alluded to.
You made a point about what influences a party's decision on who a running mate should be, talking about where their stronghold is, what they're likely to get from that person's home region. I've seen, for example, on social media, people advocating a certain personality in the NPP because they believe he's a strong Ashanti, he has links to Menchia, and he can garner votes within the Ashanti region to complement what they believe Dr. Bawumia will bring on the table. But do you think that we should still be playing up the gender card here? We know last year the NDC went with the choice of a female as a running mate. Should these two parties be really considering that at this point?
Why do you think we don't need women? I would have loved to see even women in all positions. Men have taken charge for a very long time. If we should have all women as why not? It brings the best. Women can contribute their quota effectively towards the development of this country. If anybody doesn't know that, about that is his or her own problem. But I believe women are equally competent and even more competent than some men and the rest of it. It's natural. So I want to see more women into positions of authority. But these things, it's not just gender per se. There are a lot of factors that go into it. So beyond gender, there are other factors. You can go and pick a male or female. But if the person is not competent, of course, you are wasting your own time. If the person is not popular, just for gender's sake, no, it will not bring you anything. So this position, you consider based on a number of good reasons and it's for tactical reasons. Once you bring the person, you know that at least you are sure of certain success in certain areas of political life. And that is the strategy. So the gender can fine, but other considerations are also important. If you weigh all of them, you'll be able to know the right candidate to put out. At the end of the day, all that we want is a human being who will be able to deliver the public good.
Doc, finally, I mean, you are a political scientist. You work within this space. Are there any names that have come to your attention from both sides? Whether it is through what people are saying publicly. Anything you'd like to say about that before we wrap up?
Oh, yes. People have mentioned names like Professor Jean Nana Puka-Champong.
Puka-Jaman.
Puka-Jaman, sorry. We have heard names like Mr. Deborah. We have heard names like Kojo Poku and the rest of them. They are all competent, but I believe that some of these, we can say a number of them. We can say things about them, how good they are, but the real decision lies with the party and then the flag bearer when they put their heads together and based on their research findings about who is suitable for this position. Remember, this election is not just done for the sake of it. They go to the field, take data, talk to people, and then they do all their analysis and computation. So the one who is fit for the job is the one they select. I will support anybody who will be able to deliver the goods in any political party. But at the end of the day, we want that person, when he takes over, he will be a good addition to the party's choice. That is the way to go.
I appreciate your time this morning. That's Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. He's a political scientist with the University of Ghana, Legon. This is your election headquarters. Stay with us. We will be bringing you more on elections as the season gets heated up ahead of the 2024 elections. Away from the elections, JoyNews checks have revealed 95.4 million Ghana cedis was paid for the upgrade of the Shidiem Kenyasi Road in the Ahafo region last year. Newmont Ghana Gold Limited made the payment following a collaborative agreement with the Ministry of Roads and Highways for the road to be fixed. It's among a list of poor roads in that area that led to the shedding of tears by the Gosumanhini when former President John Mahama visited his palace. Nanaya Ojima, who followed the Building Ghana tour to the Ahafo region, put the spotlight on that road.
Yawa says this is me no pen and this for there. Ahafo ya tuaba ya tuma MPP. Na fe de ba no say.
The letter cited by JoyNews is in response to an invitation by the Kenyasi community to the mining firm operating in its catchment to answer questions on the road. According to the letter, Newmont Gold on July 18, 2022 entered into an agreement for 70.3 million cedis to fund construction of the 8.2-kilometer road with Kofi Job Construction Limited as contractor. It further stated that the mining company subsequently fulfilled its obligation, but the worsening economic condition in 2022 and the depreciation of the cedi led to an upward adjustment of the contract sum at the cost of $1 million per kilometer. Works stalled as reiterated by the Kenya's Traditional Council. A trip of the John Mahama convoy to Kenyasi through Shidiem was bumpy and dusty. It took much tact for the drivers who were new to the road to navigate their way through the pothole-riddled terrain despite riding in Land Cruisers. It currently remains unclear where money paid for the construction is certain.
Newmont for trio musica Tuminka, Yaya Dini Ateho. Newmont for trio musica, don't timid. There was a Triama Newmont, I was a buying Triama Coffee Job Noyano, and I bank of job at one son and no man in Ako. What dear Bicycle and Channel? Newmont for some woman just cutting in a mark of job. I said, I be Tria Councilmansa. Cof job here almost 39 billion, not the year a Jumano, and I was a son no man in Ako. Namino crime and cano cray.
Former Minister for the region, Eric Opoku, attempts an answer.
What you acquire for? Nananom, Abaya 419. Abaya 419.
At a town hall meeting, the former president, who was distraught by stories heard, assured the necessary moves will be taken to get the contractor to site when elected.
Anka enise saa kwen ene de befa so aba Kenya se ha. Na ye hye obo. Se sika no wen hi o. Se nyame adom ne eba abemu a. Bebia sika na fa bia ye behwehwe. Na contractor no abewie ejuma no. So bi nso na amene sika na ene ye be ma na afi sika no.
Earlier, some sub-chiefs of the Gosomahene, Nana Kwesi Bosompra I, prevented the public from seeing the tears of the traditional ruler when John Mahama paid a courtesy call to his palace.
Omaina Mede Enije 7th January 2017 at the share Nana Akufo-Addo nsem arehosem omantimi ahwe ne ye.
Abantina say ya no se da bi. Kwan na NDC government dia mama no. Ohu se contract no ankoko ye.
The chief recounted how present government halted a list of road projects after assuming office for auditing.
Enfiemiansa. Ekwan ya ba begusuo na ya ato ho. Enfiemiansa beba na kwan na yeden. And a young shagoso to Tepaquine. Young Kanyasi to Hidium to Kanyasi Quine. Young Shagamian of 1 or 2 to Domaquanum. The dear Cocradia, and your bobo. Saquine in us, I say. Into a bronize, Saquano, Sicana, and who cosa.
At Goso, construction of a dual carriage road has halted for unknown reasons. The contractor, after the construction of drains and other civil works, has abandoned the site, leaving some equipment behind. This has become a worry to many, including these dressmakers along the dusty road.
And I won't say our water so. Penny be baha, near my water so. In footru, is a high intimate poma dear white too. In footru, Yaria near the Adessa and the higher.
Your dogs to change you. More na or bow penny footro through Muba. We see a letter way to a letter way.
If you are allergic to dust, Tisabasana, Kata, Ebiwa, Mandomus, and just a moment in a few, Copem Zeba, Kwan Sana, or Masaba.
The Goso Palace, situated along the road, has its fair share of the dust pollution.
Foot 20, Mabosum Yana Dania Frying Fia. And that what is a Casamitrim? A Yanibrisam. Footro na mami ti me yanya yade e wo tire ho edan ya ye bone bai
Ending his tour of the region, John Mahama assured the roads will be of concern to his government when successful in the election.
Mitimi who said near Hamutitru ewa ahafo ha ene mo akwan enti nyame adom ye bampo ne entimi anye hwe ne esiesie mo akwan nyina ama mo a em say eyade a ye ni beso.
For JoyNews, Nana Ojima, Ahafo region.
That's Danaya Ojima there, here in our studios in Kokomlemle and Bernes Abubedulan. So coming up shortly in business, government has been advised to prudently allocate resources to reduce waste in the 2024 budget. We've got details of that. Do stay.
Hi, welcome to business. My name is Darryl Kwao. Government has been advised to prudently allocate resources to reduce wastage in the 2024 budget. According to Chief Executive of Delex Finance, Ken Thompson, government has failed in managing the economy, and the only way to ensure proper utilization of resources going forward is to intensify advocacy. He spoke at the top business leaders meeting organized by BNFT.
The Minister for Finance presented the budget statement and economic policy for the 2024 financial year to Parliament on 15th November 2023. The budget statement was under the theme Pursuing Growth and Development Within a Stable Macroeconomic Environment. However, financial analyst Ken Thompson has described the budget as an overestimation of what the country can spend.
We should only spend what we can afford. I mean, we're increasing expenditure for 176 billion to over 200 billion. The government is increasing salary for public service workers by 23%. Come on. Which country has become successful when public sector employees are paid more than the private sector? The government has shown itself incapable of allocating resources. Take any sector: health, transport, education, light manufacturing, just name it. All governments over time have shown that they are incapable of utilizing the resources they are given, and all the money that has put in there has gone to waste. Compare financial services, compare all those industries to those in the private sector. So we need to advocate for the government to implement measures that support the system. But they're not going to do it because we asked them to do it. They're going to do it because we pushed, we talked about it, we advocated for it, we fight for our children. That's when it's going to happen.
The Business and Financial Times organized the top business leaders meeting, which saw some business leaders spanning various industries. Chief Executive Officer of BNFT, Dr. Godwin Akwe, explained the rationale behind the event.
When you look at the Western world, the business community is that which, shapes government policy and ensures that the government does what it's supposed to do. In Ghana, I don't think we take the business community very seriously. So we came by this, critical mass of business leaders, come together, sit and deliberate on issues that we think next year, that's 2024, it will help impact on business positively.
The top business leaders meeting was under the theme Economic and Business Outlook 2024, Perspectives from Business Leaders.
Now, the agri sector will soon experience digital transformation through the Planting for Food and Jobs program, Phase 2. Speaking at this year's Rice Festival held in Accra, Deputy Minister of Food and Agriculture, Frimpong Ado, disclosed that the registration of farmers onto the PFJ2 digital platform will commence on the 1st of December. This, he says, will help effectively manage and market crops.
In Ghana, the use of mechanized systems of land preparation and farm activities have gained prominence, which has resulted in reduced drudgery and removed some bottlenecks in agricultural value chain. However, the incorporation of digital platforms to monitor farms have seen a slow adoption process. But the Ministry of Food and Agriculture says the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2 will change the narrative. Frimpong Ado is Deputy Minister.
The program seeks to shift from direct input subsidy to a smart agricultural input credit system linked to structural market arrangements. The registration of farmers to commence the beginning of the PFJ2 will be launched, will start from 1st December, and it will be launched in Takwa during the celebration of this year's Farmers' Day. Because it's upon the registration that your farm, your beautiful 5-acre farm, will be captured on the platform. And at that point, you are going to get every input that you require to keep your farm in shape for you to become a commercial farmer from that day. So once your farm is captured, Nana, everything that you do on the farm is known by the district officers, the regional officers, and at the national level. So we know when your farm is doing well or when your farm is failing, so that you can be assured of your output. And after the deductions, you'll be laughing all the way to the bank.
Meanwhile, the Ghana Rice Interprofessional Body is calling on government to develop the inland valleys to promote rice farming in Ghana. President of GRIP, Nana Eje Aye II, believes this will double production and increase job opportunities.
we, the farmers or the actors in the rice industry, realized that it's a big industry, a huge one, that if well organized, like I said earlier on, we're going to create a lot of jobs. And we are, honestly speaking, sick and tired of doing the media, talking every day, every year we come around and talk and nothing happens. This time, we are very specific. We are asking government to develop the inland valleys. The inland valleys is producing over 300,000 metric tons a year. If you develop the inland valleys to produce twice in a year, we double production. That is why it is important we have this rice festival, and for us to be able to let the whole world or the whole Ghana know that the rice industry is lacking and we need a push to get it to the top.
65% of rice consumed in Ghana is imported. Hence, increased investments in the sector will revolutionize the sector.
And that's all for business. Back to you, Bernice.
Thank you so much, Daryl. And that will be it for this edition of News Desk. Thanks for joining us. There's more news when you log on to myjoyonline.com. Also, we are very interactive on social media. JoyNews on TV is our name, on Facebook, Instagram, and X. Do stay with us. We are your most credible news source. Much later at 12, I'll be back with the news.